So, for example, you bet half pot with value, you get called 2/3 of the time.
We can write an example.
Yeah. So like, let me do this here. So let's do, okay. So, MBF for half pot equals 66%.
Okay.
66% times one, um, one half pot equals 33%,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Right? It's half of 66, right?
Okay.
Or 66% of half, right? It makes sense. This is 1/3. That's the equals EV, right? That's the EV of the bet.
Okay.
With me so far?
Yeah, it's okay. I understood.
Okay. And then MDF for pot equals 50%, right?
Yeah. I
50%
need the
times
25% of bot.
okay, we have to be careful here because there's the odds you get on the call, but those are different than minimum defense frequency.
Okay.
Minimum defense frequency, the way we think about it is, what odds does our opponent get on a bluff? How often do I have to call for their bluffs to make exactly $0, to make their bluffs indifferent, right?
Okay.
So yes, when we call, we only have to win 1/3 of the time,
Okay.
but this is not important actually. What is important is our opponent's bluffs and making our opponent's bluffs indifferent. Because if we say, oh, I'm getting such good odds, I only need to win 33%, so I'm going to call 66, 80% of the time, whatever, 100% of the time, because my odds are so good, then your opponent will just start taking bluffs out until you don't have the right odds anymore.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So the way to think about the theory is, how do I make my opponent's bluffs indifferent? That's what minimum defense refers to. So here, if our opponent bluffs for pot, they have to win half the time.
Okay.
So minimum defense becomes 50%. And so 50%, we call 50%, if they're value betting, then they win 50% of half pot on average, right?
Okay.
So they make profit, right?
Right.
So we
Half
see the difference
bot.
between half pot value bet and pot value bet is like more than 1/3 difference, right? In fact, it's close to half, like 50% more profitable. 50% more profitable, right?
Okay.
And then we see this continue to change. So like, for example, if we bet MBF for 2x pot equals 33%, right? EB equals 33% times 2x pot equals 2/3 pot, right?
Okay. Oh,
So now the EV has gone up again, like another 30% or so. So like, how the formula ultimately works is that, let me see here if I can delete this. Here we go. If we go back to this idea, what the line caps out at, like this upper bounds number that it can never cross,
okay.
this number that it can never reach, is the size of the pot itself.
Okay.
That's the number it can never quite reach. So it'll go and it'll go, and never quite reach that number.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I know that's a little bit like confusing and theoretical, but it helps us understand why. Like here, our opponent is capped at ace-9 or something. Like they're not really checking a lot of 2-pair, right, or sets. So that's kind of where we've decided we want stacks. We want to place as big a bet as possible. But if they cap themselves earlier, then we get an opportunity to place these high EV bets.
No. Okay. It's clean now.
And that's what you want to avoid. Yeah. Yeah. So that's why we have a checking range. So how do we develop this checking range? Well, the way to think about it that I think is most valuable is, have you ever seen one of those movies with like a time machine or like cloning, and are it's like a hero fights an exact copy of himself?
Okay.
You know, like Tenet, you know, like, and they can, neither can hurt the other one, right? Because they're both the same person.
Okay.
You know that? Okay. That's what our checking range is. So what we do is we design our checking range based on our opponent's overall range, right? Our opponent's overall range. So for every queen deuce they have, we have a queen deuce. For every ace eight they have, we have an ace eight. For every ace jack they have, we have an ace jack, right? And
Mm,
once we've created these identical ranges, the rest of our range is allowed to bet. So like when I used to start playing, I would see bet all the time, and I would hate to check because I would feel like when I checked, the game was harder. But what you need to understand is that when you check, the game is supposed to be harder. Your checking range is designed to create a draw.
mm.
Once it goes check check on the flop, neither player should have an advantage. Sometimes you will win, sometimes they will win. It's not supposed to matter.
I
The
understood.
ranges are supposed to be identical.
Okay.
Everything else is allowed to value bet once you've established that checking range.
Okay.
And when it is impossible to match the strength of every hand in our opponent's range, that's where we check range, like we do here,
Okay.
right? Yeah.
The
Okay.
idea of we haven't advantage of range is a bad idea for decide what flop is it checked.
Yeah. So we check some flops when we don't have sufficient range advantage that we could bet everything and they would fail to find enough defense, is basically the short answer. You know, like if we just bet everything on this flop, if we just bet all of our queen deuce suited and whatever, they would be able to find enough defense. Like it would be okay for them. On king eight deuce, it's just impossible for them to defend enough. Like it's just a board where we get to win more than we lose. But ace nine four is not really like that if we bet everything, right?
Okay.
It wouldn't work. We wouldn't be able to bet everything. In fact, you'll notice on this board we don't actually bet everything, right? We can't actually quite afford to. It's just people can't really adjust against it. Um, I did a bad thing by booking everyone back to back to back to back today. But please let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you the video, and unfortunately today I have to kind of run, so I apologize for that.
No problem.
Okay,
I review the video and write some question. Sure.
sounds good.
Uh,
Okay, I've recorded it, so after I'm done my sessions today, I'll send it to you.
okay. No problem.
Cool, man.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. Talk to you again soon.
Okay. So see you soon. Bye bye, Seb.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye. Thanks, no problem. Bye.